It is unwise, after eating a fruit, to throw away good seed when it is in your divine and godly purpose to be fruitful and multiply according to the will of Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai.
It's the law.
We must obey the law, always, without exception.
If the law isn't respected, people die. If the law isn't respected, people die. If the law isn't respected, people die. If the law isn't respected, people die.
Shalom. Back at it again with another exhortation, out of this inspiration of our Kodash Abba, Bahashim Mashiach Malak Yahweh Shai, Wa Kodash Rakha, Barakathon, Wa Shalom. So, back at it again with another new covenant exhortation. Everything is pertaining to, the faith, man, and being able to have an eye to see and an ear to hear. And, like the scriptures makes it known in Matthew chapter 5 on how blessed are the those that thirst and hunger after righteousness, for they should be filled. So the more you are leaning on to the righteousness of the Lord, the more your character will become more of what Hamashiach is. And you will see it's like a duality that will begin to formulate in your attention, where you'll be able to see through things. And the more you are starting to grow in that, when it comes down to your way of discerning, the less the world is going to be as far as itself being attached to you. So literally you will be, you wouldn't be in a place as far as what the world will be considering as their own. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beauty of this truth, because when you're growing to understand that, many are called and few are chosen. And when you start seeing that the chosen, which is that remnant, they are the ones who possess their crowns. And they do thus saith the Lord, and they cleave to the measurement that they have in heart, and live it out, until the very end, to some the bitter end, you know what I mean? But nevertheless, acknowledging that you live your life, for the Lord's way of righteousness. So I know y'all see the picture in the background while I'm talking, dealing with the movie Platform 2. And there's a recent movie that just came out and is on the Netflix. I would recommend, brothers and sisters, those who have an ear to hear and an eye to see, to watch that. And you'd be surprised on what you would get out of it from a biblical perspective. And my reasons are saying that because we know everything that we're accumulating as we are increasing what is of understanding and knowledge, ultimately wisdom is all connected to that measurement that we have in heart that's lining up to the Lord's will and what is of his way. You know what I'm saying? And nevertheless, just being built up inside of that, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And for those that don't understand, just saying the Father, the Father God in the name of Jesus Christ, just being transparent. But at the same time, when you, just getting further into it, when you watch that movie, you just have to have the proper way of discerning. And one thing that had, came to me in watching this Platform 2 is that it's really not putting too much out, but it's some things that will kind of have you to go back on part 1 and actually analyze, why certain things played out the way that it was in part 1. So, it's like a back and forth thing. And I believe, ultimately, like, this movie is a good movie, but you gotta be in the spirit in order to perceive these things. So nevertheless, you will see inside the movie a group of men who are reinforcing law, but the way that they're reinforcing law, it comes from like what is written inside Matthew chapter 23. You know what I'm saying? As far as how, they apply themselves and the way that they deal with things is from a way of becoming later on eventually burdensome to others. You know what I'm saying? And the way they was reinforcing the law, it was like an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth type of vibe. Like, you break one, you paying the penalty. You know what I'm saying? And when you see that, it's like in one angle you can understand why they did certain things, but then again you see also the way how they running with it is from a mentality that lines up to what the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all of those who are of that wicked generation, you know, as far as the ones that was on top, you know, was reinforcing. And it's crazy the way how everything turns out, you know, in this movie. But then at the same time, you had a rebellious group, you know what I'm saying, that was formulated, and they had like a big war at the end. So, you know, I recommend brothers and sisters to watch that, you know, the platform too, and really get into it through the spirit and see it. So, you know, I got two scriptures that I want to share. One is in Luke chapter 11, verse 46, and the other one is Galatians chapter 6 and verse 2. But in Luke chapter 11 and verse 46, it says, and he said, woe unto you also, ye lawyers, right? Because lawyers are supposed to be of those who know the law, and how they apply the law is supposed to be from a just perspective, a righteous perspective. But then when you start seeing like the stuff that goes on today with most lawyers, you know, they're well known of being liars because they after that dollar, they chasing after clout, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that has been put out there, you know, mainstream. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have none that are sincere, but, you know, from a perspective of hearing others, you know, they do what they got to do to get to that dollar. And even if they got to be running with deception, you know what I'm saying? And no matter who they got to step on, they're going to do what they got to do to get what they got to get in the matter of the law. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, and at the same time, they deal with it in the matters to make their own selves to look good. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when you look at Luke 11 and 46, it said, and he said, woe unto you also, ye lawyers, right? And it's an exclamation mark. And he said, for ye laden men with burdens, grievous to be borne, right? And ye yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. So it's like they break it and they don't reinforce it on themselves, but because they are a group that is that have a terroristic type of mindset and they want to reinforce what God says, you see what I'm saying? But using it in the name of Moses, you see what I'm saying? And in this sense, they using it in the name of somebody else. But then what was amazing is the fact that they had somebody on here that was supposed to be the anointed one. And when you look at the perspective of what they were claiming that the anointed one was reinforcing, when you listen to the story of him, he really sacrificed himself. You see what I'm saying? But the way they ran with the sacrifice was in a way to be destructive. You see what I'm saying? And if y'all could tie this in, it kind of gives you insight on certain matters that are going on today. You know, I can't even say the Israelite community alone, just a biblical perspective of those who cleave onto the word of God. You know, you got a group of those who use it for their own benefits, and then you got those who sincerely use it and that are showing forth on how they are enduring. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they don't lift up a finger, but you'll see where I'm coming from in these matters. Now, Galatians chapter 6, right? In verse 2, he said, bear ye, matter of fact, I'm gonna start at verse 1. He said, brethren, if a man be overtaken in fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such in one in the spirit of meekness. You know what I'm saying? Being that greater example, right? Considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. You see? So it's like overall just being an example on what it means to be mature, you know, in his walk. And not only just that, but showing being that light unto others on what it means to make to exemplify what the law is about. You know what I'm saying? And not exemplifying it from a generational viper's point of view when it comes into the law of God. You see what I'm saying? But watch this, verse 2. Bear ye one another's burdens. Do what? Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ, meaning the law of Hamashiach. But we know that means the anointed one. And it's kind of a coincidence in the movie again. They had somebody that was considered to be the anointed one. But, you know, it's like people didn't take that as in a way of themselves to follow. So they ignored it and ran with things in their own way by being quote unquote barbarians. You see what I'm saying? What they made known in the movie. So you got the ones who wanted to represent that person's death, but they ran with law. But the way they ran with law, they ran with it in a way where it's like, this person is new in the picture, right? Though things been said to them. So the moment they make a mistake about something and they unaware about it, they had to pay the penalty, because it was like, hey, they are going to be used as an example in the eyes of others, as in, you know, to be in the fear of not breaking law. You see what I'm saying? So they wasn't doing it in the name of a person that was in a place as in like Hamashi, like I want to say somebody that's of an anointed one. They was doing it in a way as in what would be, you just got to watch the movie. You're going to see what I'm talking about as you tie 2 and 2 together. But going to verse 3 in Galatians chapter 6, he said, for if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at those that fill up their own bellies, they feel like they got the right to do that. You see what I'm saying? They and their right is a worldly point of view. It's not something from the spirit where they're in a place of understanding what it means to be a greater example. Like when Hamashiach spoke about the corn, and when the corn dies off, and how the corn, when it dies off, the corn produces more corn because the seed be planted. You see, so due to the grounding and where that seed is at, you see what I'm saying, going to determine out on how that seed is going to grow. So it kind of gives you a glimpse on the things that are of righteousness. Are you being contentious about it, or are you applying it to yourself within your life and exemplifying it from an aspect where it helps others to cleave to the reality of righteousness and being the idea, you know, to the lost, on they still have something that can be of a hope in their lives where they can continue on in a better way, shall I say. You see what I'm saying? So nevertheless, you know what I'm saying, it's much more that's within it. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, it's just being that example. Like, let me go further. In verse 4, he said, but let every man prove his own work, right? Not being a hypocrite. And then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another, which is very important, because you know where you stand at when it comes down to you being who you are. Now, who you was, which is the past, don't reflect your present. It reflects your future if you are aware of your past or at the present moment, shall I say. All right. And notice this, verse 5, for every man shall bear his own burden. What? Every man shall bear his own burden. So it's like our burdens are given unto Hamashiach. So out of the faith, we like, hey man, we help a brother if it's in the Lord and he put it on our hearts to do so, and that's what we're going to do. But nevertheless, we have to have a mentality as in like, hey man, let the Lord get the glory. You see what I'm saying? The more the mindset is in a place of the Lord getting the glory, the less you will think of yourself and the more you will do for others. And I believe like the man that started everything off before men were applying law the way they was applying it, because there was a law that was being applied, but it was in a way for those who took heed to it, where it would help them to be light unto others who will be able to comprehend and understand. You see, they were trying to, you know what I'm saying? You had the others after the man was gone trying to apply it, but in a forcible way, but from an angle where it's like everybody gonna get this, and if they don't, they're gonna be put to death. That type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was really, really interesting. So I recommend brothers and sisters, you know, to watch that platform too.